On July 4, 2023, I traveled to the territory. I left my body in the ambulance. I looked down and I saw myself, and I saw the two paramedics working on me, and I heard one of them, a young woman, could not have been 30 years old, counting compressions, and I thought, she is doing a good job. Then I thought, I am dead. And then, almost immediately, I am not afraid. That absence of fear is the first thing I want to tell you. If you are afraid of death, your own or someone you love, I want you to hear this clearly. On the other side of the flat line, there is no fear. It is gone. It does not migrate with you. Fear is a feature of the body, and I had left the body. What was left was just me, without the freight. I moved, and I use that word loosely, because I was not exactly moving so much as arriving, into something I am going to call heaven, because I was raised Methodist and that is the word I have. I acknowledge that word comes with its own architecture in most people's minds. I am asking you to set that architecture aside for a moment, because what I found was different from any Sunday school picture I ever saw, and also more real than any of them. There were no gates. There were no clouds in the way pictures show clouds. What there was, and I am going to reach for the most honest description I can, knowing it is inadequate, was the feeling of being home. Not my specific house on Belmont Boulevard, not any house I had ever lived in. The feeling of being home in the most essential sense of the word, the sense that this is where I came from and this is where I belong, and I have been away for a long time. The light was, I keep coming back to light, and every person who has had this experience seems to, and I think it is because there is genuinely no other word. The light was warm and personal and completely without shadow. Not metaphorically without shadow, actually without shadow. Everything was equally illuminated from every direction, the way things look in a perfect photograph but never in real life. And the people. My mother was there. Patsy Mercer, née Wallace, died in 2001 of congestive heart failure. She looked the way she looked in the photographs from before I was born, young and strong, and with the particular brightness in her face that the years in the small house in Murfreesboro had somewhat dimmed. She was not dimmed at all. She saw me and she laughed, not the small, careful laugh of her last years, but the full laugh that I remembered from when I was 8 years old and she was 30, and we were still living the simple version of our lives. My best friend from childhood, Eddie Greer, was there. Eddie died in Vietnam in 1969. He was 19 years old, and I was the one who told his mother. I had carried that, telling his mother, for over 50 years. I did not know I was still carrying it until I saw Eddie standing there at 22 or 23, the age he would have been if he had come home, and something I had been holding for 54 years let go. Eddie looked at me and said, these were actual words, not impressions, actual words in Eddie's specific voice from Nashville, Tennessee. He said, Jim, you did everything right. You have always done everything right. And then he laughed and said, even if your golf game could use some work. That was Eddie. Exactly Eddie, right down to the bad joke in the middle of the profound moment. I want to describe what heaven looked like because I think this is what you came here for, and I want to be fair to it. There were no buildings in the way we have buildings. There was, and this is going to sound unusual, there was landscape. Not like Tennessee landscape, not like anything I had seen before, but recognizably something like landscape. Depth and space and color and distance. But the color was wrong in the best possible way, oversaturated, vivid beyond what human eyes normally process, like the difference between an old photograph and something in full high definition. There was music, not music I could identify, not hymns or country or anything in any genre I knew. Something that was to music what the light was to ordinary light, the source of the thing rather than the thing itself, and there was peace. I have used that word in insurance conversations for 35 years, usually to describe what a well-structured financial plan provides for a family. I did not know what the word meant until July 4, 2023. Peace is not the absence of trouble. Peace is the presence of something so large and so stable that trouble cannot find purchase on it. That is what heaven felt like from the inside. I was shown things in those 10 minutes. Not everything. I understood that clearly. A 10-minute visit does not get you the full tour. But I was shown enough. I was shown that the people I had spent my career helping families prepare for losing, that those people were not lost. That the policies I had sold and the conversations I had facilitated and the families I had helped look at the hardest thing they were facing, all of it had been right. Not because it provides financial security, though it does that too, but because in sitting with families and asking them to acknowledge that this life has an end, I had been doing something true. There were things I saw that I am still finding language for. I saw, and I understand how this sounds, and I am going to say it anyway, I saw what I can only describe as the fabric of connection between living people. A web, but not metaphorical, an actual visible structure from that vantage point. The love between people who are still alive, Barbara and me, Craig and his family, Patty and hers, the grandchildren and each other. It was present there as something visible. I could see it. All of the love that exists right now, right here, between the people who are alive and the people who have gone ahead. It was all visible from that vantage point as one continuous structure. Nothing cut off, nothing ended. Just love extending in every direction, in every dimension, with no edges I could find. I looked at my own connections in that structure, and I was surprised by what I saw. The families I had sat with over 35 years, the widows, the young parents, the retirees planning for a future they hoped would be peaceful. Many of those connections were still there, visible as threads of something that the conversation had established between us. The honest moment I described, it had left a mark, not on the policy, on the actual structure of things. Acknowledging that this life has an end is the beginning of living it correctly. I came back to the hospital in a way I can only describe as arriving reluctantly. Not because I was unhappy to be alive, because where I had just been was so much itself, so fully real in a way that made everything else feel provisional, that returning was an adjustment.